So here we go, and looking at our formation, which is a 3-5-2, more specifically a 3-2-3-2. And we're going to start with the back three just to give the girls an idea of movement and what is kind of expected. And in this video, this is focusing on the defensive side of the ball as it pertains to all 11 players. So we'll look at each position and kind of what is expected in that position on the defensive side of the ball as we're getting goal side and preventing the other team from scoring goals ultimately. And so looking across the back, the two main words that are going to go with this group is going to be communication and connection. These three players have got to stay connected, which means they're staying in a straight line. One player's not leaving without the other one's rotating. If one leaves, they all got to rotate in order to stay connected. And as we add in the other players, you're going to see that there's more connection, but we really want to keep these three players as connected as possible. Not having a player chasing somebody behind what would be our offsides line, which is based on our center back, not having them also chase way forward. They're looking to stay as flat and connected as possible. The connection also has to do with these two areas in between the center back and outside backs, which are the most important areas and the most dangerous for a team to attack through. And we really want to stay connected and keep those spaces closed. If the two is stepping out, for example, to cover somebody, this is not staying connected because it's just way too much space. So we really have to shift across in order to really kind of stay connected. This allows the space that we're giving up on the far side, and we'll get into how we would be covering that. Same thing, ball gets swung around through the 10 over to the 11. Main thing is that we're staying connected. One is pressuring the ball. Our center back shifts, our outside backs make sure to shift, not staying way out here. This player is not important. We'll be talking about covering that player. We got to get inside the most dangerous player. And so this is kind of staying connected. So very important word in the back that you'll hear all year long from me is stay connected, which means basically limit the gap between the outside back and center back and stay as flat, straight across as possible. Another word is that communication, and most communication is going to be focused with this player right here, the center back, the number 4. They do most of our communicating because they can see most of the field. So they're going to just make sure that 2 and 3 are marked up. If 9, this is a very bad situation for us, which we'll get into once we plug in the 5 and the 6, is this one-on-one situation against our center back. So we just want to make sure that our 2 and our 3 are connected and in an area where they're goal side to be able to step and mark. So then we want to look as we add in our second, which is our 2 defensive center mids, which is our 5 and our 6. And you're going to notice I'm putting the 6 back here, not even with the 5, but goal side of 9. This is going to eliminate our 4 from having to mark. We want to keep our 4 as free as possible. That way, if the ball gets swung across over to the 7 beats 2, we want 4 to be free to be able to support and help out number 2. Same thing if the ball gets to the middle with the 9, 6 gets beat, we want the 4 here able to support. So the main thing with number 4 is that they're not marking up unless they absolutely have to. Their job, more importantly, is to make sure that these 4 players, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6, are marked up. So we see here 2 has got 7. 3 doesn't need to push all the way out here to 11. That's going to open up and disconnect us space-wise here. They just need to be aware that they're out there. And then as 11 comes in, now we could look to close up that space. 5 is here marking the 10. We got 6 goal side, and 4 is free to move around. So this is kind of the general defensive shape that we're looking for from the 2 and the 3, which are our outside backs, the 4, which is our center back, and the 5 and 6. Very important that our 5 and 6 stay central. One of the main words associated with them is central. They've got to be able to drop back into these spaces to almost give us a 5-player set in the back if we need it. And so if they get stretched way out, for example, the ball gets played out here, if our 6 takes off, now we've created a giant hole here. So we've got to let our 7, our 2, we got to let them deal with that space and try to keep our center midfielders as central as possible. So key words with this group: connection, got to stay connected. Communication is absolutely vital between these, not only these 5 players, but the goalkeeper as well. And for 5 and 6, really focusing on staying central in the middle of the lines, not getting outside on the outside midfield. They got to allow our outside midfielders to do that work. Next, we're plugging in our 8. The 8 is just a workhorse. The 8 has got to make sure that they're finding the next person to mark. Typically, whenever you're looking at the 8, you're bringing in the opponent's number 6. So this is basically a shape that you're going to kind of see as a team plays: 3 in the middle, 3 up top. So in this situation, we're really looking, you can see a nice triangle between our 5, our 6, and our 8. All central, where they can put pressure on the ball. So ball comes into the 6, 8's able to pressure. We're able to stay goal side here. It's when the ball gets played, for example, to the 8, that our 6 may need to step in pressure, our 5 may need to shift over, and we leave this space. We always want to focus in the middle with 5, 6, and 8, covering the most deadly or most important places. And again, focusing on keeping 4 unmarked so that she can help cover anything that needs to be covered. Now looking at our 7 and our 8, which are outside midfielders. Typically on defense, we go from a 3-2-3-2 or a 3-5-2. We really drop these players back, and they're looking to cover these main spaces that can form in between a team's fullback and a team's forward. The main thing we want our outside midfielders to understand is who they're marking. The 2 and the 3 way up here at midfield, oftentimes we get caught finding ourselves just standing up here marking the fullbacks, and the ball is in a much rougher spot for us. So we got to make sure that our 7 and 11 defensively are getting back in order to support. We're getting numbers behind the ball. They're dropping back. This example would allow our outside midfielder to mark up here goal side. That's going to allow our 2 to sink in and fill this hole. Now what we're able to do from this situation is start pushing our players forward. Now our players can push forward. I know the 2 coming in next to the 4 might seem a little funny, but perfectly okay. As this happens, we still keep our triangle. We've now put pressure on the ball farther down the field. Still 1 up in the back and goal side everywhere else. So it's really important for these outside midfielders, the 7 and the 11, to get goal side. If the ball gets played negatively back, then we can look to shift, and we're stepping to pressure the ball. Everybody's looking to shift over. Our 5 and our 6, based on communication, can drop back, and we're still looking to force the ball negatively back. So main thing looking at 7 and 11 is you got to get back. You got to be aware of who you're marking, that we're not getting pushed up marking their fullbacks, that if the ball is here, the main word for them is going to be goal side. We got to make sure we're getting goal side of the ball so that our rotation allows us to keep our center midfielders connected in the middle, allows them to stay central. They cannot stay central and our backs cannot stay connected if our outside midfielders are not getting goal side behind the ball. This makes it much more difficult to break down and score goals, rather than if our 7 and our 11 are not goal side. Now what this forces us to do is really get spread out wide, and it forces a lot more of these dangerous gaps. So 7 and 11, very important that we're getting goal side behind the ball. We got to work to get between the goal and the ball. And then we find our marks, and that allows us to stay a lot tighter defensively and really shut down these passing lanes that are dangerous. Right, now kind of focusing on the last players, which would be our 9 and our 10. So looking at the 9 and the 10, we've got all 11 players on the field for both teams. And so we're looking at the 9 and the 10. 9 and 10's main job is going to be to force the play one way. We don't want them switching the ball. So for example, their center back plays it to the left back. We want to look to force it this way, not allow them to turn and play it back. And this involves not just one player, which is often what's happened, is one of the center forwards goes, the other center forward has gotten kind of lazy and has stayed over here. They've got to make sure that even on the defensive side, they're staying close together. So the main word for that 9 and 10 is forcing it one way and close. They got to stay close to each other. This way, 9 forces the ball here. We can all shift and force a mistake. But what happens is if we don't shift together, these big holes open up, and they can swing the ball back to 5 and break us down through the 6. All right. So where that can't take place, if 10 is shifted. If 10 is shifted, ball gets played back, it's still eliminating this penetrating pass and forcing them to either swing it all the way across, still forcing it outside, or to force it down the line on the outside. So same thing, let's say they play it back to the 5, 4, over to the right. We're looking to just shift as they play that ball, pressuring here. Our 9 has shifted with our 10 so that our movement looks more like this. This is going to allow the 11 to shut down any passing space. Our backs have now shifted. And now we're in a much better defensive situation where we're able to shift. That's going to allow our players here to get marked up and really kind of shift back. So you notice here, ball is on the side. We've got pressure on the ball. We've got this closeness here that really eliminates passes through the middle or makes it more difficult. We've eliminated kind of switching the ball other than a long one, and we've really closed down this space here. So let's say 10 checks to the ball, 6 can go. We're still able to eliminate this space. 5 is going to shift a little bit. 2 is marked up, so we still have 4 as being free. And so the only player really left open in this situation is 50 yards away from the field or from the goal. So strong defensive shape. Ball looks to switch across. We pressure here. We're eliminating, trying to force this ball back into this way, not allowing it to go across. Kind of cutting down here and forcing it back into this space. If they do manage to get it across, again, look at the rotation. 9 is shifting across. So the 2 forwards are really working hard defensively to work together, stay close, and force mistakes. 7 is able to step into the space, and our whole team is shifting with the ball. Our 4's communicating, staying marked up. We're shifting. Now notice this 11, we've put pressure, we've forced the ball to here. They've really got to look to now get goal side of the next mark. And all this is going to come with communication. So now we've all shifted. So the player again is just the exact same player when the ball was over here. It's this far space, 50 or 60 yards away from the goal. So really looking at our 3-2-3-2, this is what we are wanting to see on the defensive side of the ball. And so kind of putting our players back in place, we're wanting our 2 and our 3, which is our outside backs, to really stay connected. Connected and communication is vital for those back for not only the back three, but these back five. Staying goal side, very important. Looking into the outside, the 7 and the 11, the words for them is goal side. They got to make sure that wherever this ball is, we're getting goal side of it. We're dropping back into this space. Ball gets played long. We are working as hard as we can to get goal side. We're working as hard as we can on both sides of the field to get goal side. I know sometimes we'll fall asleep on the opposite side of the field, and then all of a sudden the ball gets switched and we're in trouble. So we're getting goal side because that allows us to really close down passing lanes. And then looking at the 8, focusing on our attacking center mid, they're just looking to stay connected with our 5 and our 6, keep this triangle connected as an outlet, and really picking up any players that they see unmarked in front of our 5 and 6. So really dropping to the deepest player, leaving these players unmarked because they're farthest away from the goal. And this is going to allow us, a better defensive shape. If they try to swing it, they've got to swing it from farther back. And then our 9 and 10, main word for them is close. They got to stay close to each other, offensively and defensively. If 10 is shifting across, 9 has got to be shifting with the 10. They got to be on the same page and keeping these gaps close. That way, if we do win the ball and turn it over, we have somebody to work with, and we'll get into that on the offensive side. So connection, communication through the back, all right? Outside midfielders got to look to stay goal side, get back and stay goal side. And 9 and 10, our forwards, have got to really look to stay close together and work together to force this ball on one side so we're not allowing them to swing it back and forth across the back or find these gaps through the middle. And I hope that kind of helps explain the formation. Like I said, it's a 3-5-2, but sits more of a 3-2-3-2 more specifically. And we'll also focus on the offensive side of the ball in another video. This is more how we need to move on the defensive side of the ball.